but I literally came back from the trip, put together my letter of resignation, and I gave it to my boss. And everybody, including myself, was absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a job to go to. I don't know what's next. But I just felt there was a piece inside of me that said, I am taking you out of this. It's time to go onto something else. And I didn't know it was going to be real estate yet. I didn't know that for about 6 months. For 6 months, I stayed home. I just dealt with my son, and I spent as much time with him and in ministry that I could. And then one day I was folding laundry on the floor. It was like 2 a.m. My son was sleeping. I was in his room, and I felt that impression, like, you're going to have a business. It's going to be called Lighthouse Homes and Realty. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. Mm-hmm. And it was like, what?
What? When I set a vision in my life and I look at my faith, my family, my business, my health, my wealth, I want other people in these real stories to hear the real stories of that journey.
I have everything that I've wanted, like in terms of family life, beautiful wife, making good money, and like my world's upside down right now in my head.
God is so good. He shows us his hands. Like, people think miracles are like, like someone being instantly healed. It's so much more than that. They can be the smallest things where he shows his goodness in your life.
If you think of something and you believe it and you see it in your mind, it's meant for you. Go chase it.
See you in the next episode of Real Stories. Sometimes the right home shows up at the exact moment a family needs hope. Today's story is about faith, purpose, and divine timing. There are people in real estate who sell homes, and then there are people who truly guide families through life-changing moments. Danielle Stevens is one of those people. Serving Durham region through her business, Lighthouse Homes, Danielle has built a reputation for leading with integrity, compassion, and deep-rooted faith. She believes that helping someone find the right home isn't just business, it's purpose. Today, we're diving into Danielle's real story, her journey, her faith, and the miracle moments that she's seen along the way. Welcome to the podcast, Danielle. You've spent so many years serving the Durham region and many different families in the region. What do you love most about this community?
I love the fact that, I've lived in Toronto. I've lived in Durham. Durham is not as busy. I love that there's a sense of home in Durham region. There is a sense of community in the various communities throughout Durham region. And there's just that, neighborly feeling that I don't remember experiencing in my years of living in Toronto. Mm-hmm. Everybody kind of lived in their bubble. But I find that in our Durham region, like, we care about the people that we live close to. And that sense of community, it just makes it easier to serve in this area.
Yeah, that's beautiful and nice to hear, and good that you found a spot that feels like home. What season of life, if you could just give me a brief explanation, do you feel you're in right now?
Ooh, I feel like I'm in a season of life where I know myself. I know what I like. I know what my purpose is. I know I can identify the things that just don't align with me. And I'm not afraid to say that, something doesn't work for me and discard it or put it to the side and focus on what does line up. It's almost, there's a feeling of being unapologetic about the things that matter to me. So I don't feel like I'm getting drawn into 50 million spaces and places that are going to deter me from being the person that God's called me to be. Mm-hmm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And it's nice when you get to a level in a time of maturity where you're just like, no, this is who I am. This is what I'm here for.
Yeah.
Take it or leave it.
Exactly. In a nice
but I'm
way.
here for love.
Yeah, in a nice way. But just learning how to meter how much time I'm giving to things that don't align. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's great. So I want to go back to little Danielle. Mm-hmm. Who were you growing up? Where did you live? What were your siblings like? Did you have siblings?
Yeah.
I want to hear about you when you were young.
Okay, so little Danielle, I'm the eldest of 8 children. However, I was raised with 4 of those. No, not 4. I'm the eldest of 8 children, but I have 4 siblings that I was raised with. Mm-hmm. The other ones, we have good relation with, but as a kid, it was 5 of us in one home, my mom's children. And I was the boss. I still am the boss, but I was also the helper. I feel like growing up, there was the need for me to mature very quickly. Mm-hmm. I come from a family where, my mom worked hard. And when she was at work or when she was at school back in those days, I was the one who had to, babysit my siblings. I had to make sure that the meat was seasoned, the dinner was cooked. I was the big sister mother. Mm-hmm. But I was still a kid. But that maturity was kind of thrown on me. And I feel like I've taken that into my adulthood. But I had a lot of fun. I had a lot of fun growing up. I was into ballet. I was into tap. I was into jazz. I played basketball. I played field hockey. I did things. I did things. I was always busy. And yeah, like that was little Danielle. She had fun. She didn't realize the reality of her life while she was growing up. Adult concerns didn't concern her. I was just, living and enjoying as best as I could. Mm-hmm. But, one of the things that I was actually talking about this at another event, growing up, I moved 9 times before the age of 17. Mm-hmm. So another thing about little Danielle or younger Danielle is that she just learned how to adapt. She learned how to roll with the punches. You moved, you made new friends. You moved again, you went to a different school. It was not feeling like I had a core group and not really wanting to be a part of a core group because I didn't know when I was going to leave again.
Yeah.
So there was, as much as she was having fun, there was a lack of security and safety in one space. So mm-hmm. that was, that was a dichotomy of my life. It was fun, but there was unsureness.
Yeah. Always change. I can relate to that a little bit. Oldest as well. Yeah. And felt like that motherly figure because my parents were both really busy all mm-hmm. the time with work. And I had a great childhood, also very active, but there's something interesting that I think happens in a child's life because we moved a lot as well, mm-hmm. not quite as often. But when we stopped moving, I think I was in grade 5. So between 4 and 5, we moved to 3 or 4 different houses, I believe.
Yeah.
And that change does create an adaptable person.
Yeah.
Like, how can it not? Your new friends, new relationships. And what I found actually when I was not stagnant, but in the same school for 4 years, as a child, I was like, oh, I wonder when I'm leaving again, or I wonder when I have a new experience again. And I started to learn to enjoy change as opposed to resent it.
Okay.
So it's really interesting.
That's cool.
Yeah. And we've talked about so many different layers of life and had some really deep conversations. And mm-hmm. maybe because we're both sort of old soul motherly figures, we get each other.
Yeah.
I know you're deep into your faith.
Yeah.
That's obviously very important. How did that develop through the seasons? Were you always someone that had strong faith? What sort of ignited that for you? Was there a moment or a pinnacle time?
There was. First of all, I wasn't somebody of strong faith. I did grow up acknowledging God. Like, you coming from a Caribbean household, everybody knows who Jesus is. Everybody hears about God. We all know how to recite Psalm 23. But there is a difference between knowing of him and actually knowing him. I didn't regularly attend a church. I didn't serve in my community in any which way, shape, or form. But when I was 27 years old, I had just had my son. And I was just going through a really rough time, and someone invited me to a baby blessing at a church. And so I went, and something about what transpired that day, and I can't tell you what it was, but it kept me intrigued enough to go back. So maybe in 2 weeks, I went back, and then I went back, and I just kept going back. And within 2 months, I think that was in June of 2007. And then in September of 2007, I gave my life to the Lord, and I was baptized in Jesus' name and converted my life to a Christian that actually lived the life. So, I mean, I was far from where I am now. However, I had a desire to become someone who didn't just know of God, but was in an actual relationship with God. So, yeah.
Thank you for sharing that. And I can very much relate to this as well, because I didn't really grow up in a Christian home, but my grandmother took me to church sometimes on Sundays. Like, I knew of it,
Right.
but I didn't. All I saw, and growing up as a teenager, was actually this form of religiousness and rules that I was like,
Exactly.
no.
Same thing.
I don't want
Same
rules.
thing. It was all rules, rituals,
Yeah.
routine.
Yeah. And so when I found out that God, Jesus, was real, was the front of a church, and a miracle happened. And it took a near-death experience for me to see the light. And it's really amazing to hear that, because it is a relationship. It's not a forced, rule-based
It's not an obligatory
situation.
thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it's this feeling of love that comes over you, and
Absolutely.
pretty awesome. Well, I want to dive more into that and hear some experiences that you've had as I get deeper into this with you.
All right.
You are obviously in real estate now. Was there something that you did as a teenager or a young adult prior to real estate? Can you share a little bit about what your experience was with working and first times earning money as a young kid, and what sort of ignited you to become entrepreneurial on that journey?
So actually, when I reflect back at who younger Danielle was, I had it in me to be an entrepreneur. I didn't quite know that at the time, obviously, but I was 9 years old, and I lived in an apartment building at Don Mills and York Mills, Don Mills and Shepherd area. And I remember the Toronto Star van used to come and drop off the bundles in front of our building, and I would lay wait the van and ask the guy for a job all the time. This is at 9, and I assailed him, and finally he gave in. He actually said, "You're too young. You can't do it." And I don't remember if I turned 10 and then I was allowed, or if he just let me do it at 9. But I remember talking to my mom, and I asked my mom to come downstairs and wait with me one day, and she did. And so then we set up a little meeting. They said, "Okay, I can deliver the paper, but I have to stay within my building." And so I got my little paper route. My parents helped me to put my stuff together on Wednesdays and Fridays, get the bundles, put the paper together. I would deliver I had my little silver basket with all the papers in there, and I would deliver my Toronto Star. And when you're in an apartment building, it's so easy for someone to steal the paper. Like, you put it at the person's door, and then someone can walk by and pick it up. So I made a point of knocking the door and stuffing it in the little slot as best as I could. And I think that deterred people from taking it out of the slot, because it would make noise. And people started telling me that, thank you, they're actually receiving their paper. And I would get tips. As a little kid, I was getting tips, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Like,
That's so
I'm getting
cute.
some good money here in my little, 10-year-old mind, 9-year-old mind. And then on top of that, so back then you had to go back and collect at a certain time. So what I started doing is, when I was doing the collection for my Toronto Star, I would actually ask them if they have any milk jugs or Coke bottles or anything that they want to get rid of while I was doing the collection. So I would collect their payment, and then I would collect any bottles, and I'd fill up my little buggy. And then I would walk to the convenience store, return all the bottles, because you got 10 cents, a quarter, whatever it was, back then. And so I was getting more money on top of my tips. It
Look
was
at
like
you.
killing two birds with one stone. And that's, I don't know, I loved that. It wasn't hard for me. It wasn't laborious. It was something that made me feel really good. So yeah, I had it in me from the time I was like 9 and 10.
That's amazing. And it's really cool to hear different people's stories, and especially entrepreneurs, because there is usually something that's just in them.
Yeah.
And like they get joy from that at a very young age.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people about this, and there's all different kinds of stories, but that's neat. So as a mother yourself now, if you see that in a child, would you encourage that? Would you encourage your friends, family members to allow that spark to ignite?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I, even with my own son, so Cameron, he plays basketball, and it's the time that he spends playing basketball and practicing and stuff. It's very taxing. He's at early practices, late practices. He doesn't come home until later on in the day. So it's hard for him to even get a job. But when the weather warms up, you know, he started, there was one time he's like, Mom, I need to get a job, but I can. And what should I do? And I was like, well, use what you got. Use whatever you have, use it. So he started going out to a little park near our house and teaching one child how to play basketball, do little drills. He set up his little dollar store pylons and stuff like that. And on an open court, there's one net, and he just wanted to be the person that was there. And if other people came, they would wait for him or maybe play around him with his one student. And parents would come to the park and see what he's doing and then be like, oh, do you train? Do you this? And so just by him doing what he's doing, he's gaining more other people's interests. And so they gave him the numbers, like, call us. We want to bring our kid here. We want to do this. And I'm like, look at that. You're using what you have. You're making good money doing what you're doing, something that you love. And you're working within your own parameters. So when I see kids showing that kind of, that they have that quality, you want to encourage that. You want them to know that they can make something out of what seems to be not nothing, but where it doesn't seem ideal.
Yeah.
There's still another way, because it's not ideal for him to work, but here's an opportunity for you to make a lot of money in a shorter amount of time and do something that you love. So yeah, I'm always the encourager. And I think even I was a youth pastor for 9 years, so I was always dealing with young people. And that was part of, I felt, my job, to show them, like, there's something more inside of you. Here's what you can do. Use what you have to go and do what God has called you to do. Yeah.
Oh, thank you for sharing. It's awesome. And I didn't know that you were a youth pastor.
Yeah.
I know that you have always impacted kids and done things, but that's pretty incredible. So when you realized it's real estate, what led you to getting into real estate?
So I was working in corporate. I was in IT sales, and I had been doing that for about 10 years. One night, it was maybe in October. It was an October day or November day. I was sitting in my bed, and I was on my computer, on my laptop, still working, and it's like 8:30 at night, and my son is sitting beside me, and he's holding on to my arm, just kind of squeezing my arm and trying to get my attention and talking to me. And I'm answering him very blankly as I'm focused on work. And something hit me, and I was like, oh God, like I went to work already. I gave them their 8 hours, and here I am still doing their work while the most important person to me is beside me and vying for my time, and I can't give it to him. And that was the start of a dissatisfaction. And so fast forward to maybe about 3 months later, I felt the leading to say, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm done. I was actually away on a cruise, and I was on the ship at 5 o'clock in the morning outside at the front of the ship, just praying and saying, God, what's next? And I feel like I heard in my spirit, it's time to go. And I don't know where I'm going, but I literally came back from the trip, put together my letter of resignation, and I gave it to my boss, and everybody, including myself, was absolutely flabbergasted.
Yeah.
Because I don't have a job to go to. I don't know what's next. But I just felt there was a piece inside of me that said, I'm taking you out of this. It's time to go on to something else. And I didn't know it was going to be real estate yet. I didn't know that for about 6 months. For 6 months, I stayed home. I just dealt with my son, and I spent as much time with him and in ministry that I could. And then one day I was folding laundry on the floor. It was like 2 a.m. My son was sleeping. I was in his room, and I felt that impression, like, you're going to have a business. It's going to be called Lighthouse Homes and Realty. And this is what I'm going to ask you to do. And it was like, what?
What?
I mean, I loved real estate. I have realtors in my family. I grew up handing out flyers for my uncle. I worked in his office, helping him with administration. But it just felt like, oh my God, like this is a real thing right now. And so the following week, I went and signed up. It took me a year to do my real estate course. And then when I was done a week later, here I was at Keller Williams Energy. And my business is called Lighthouse Homes and Realty. And it's that because it's not just a job to me. It's not just a career. It's also a ministry. I am not here to just exact transactions between clients and get them into a home. Yes, getting them into a home is part of it. Selling their home is a part of it. But my job is to function as a lighthouse, where when you are in the midst of a tumultuous ocean, when you don't see where the land is and you need some guidance to get safely to shore, that's my job as a realtor. My job is to bring you through that process with a lot of hope and understanding that there is a clear destination in mind and you're not alone, that you are going to get to the other side. And through that, I get to serve. I get to serve the people. So I'm always coming from a place of service and wanting their best interests to be met.
I love that. And I'm sure you have a lot of awesome stories with your clients of how you've shown up. And I can't wait to hear about some of those. We'll dive in. And
All right.
so you start real estate, you finish your license. I want to take you back to those. Okay, I've got my license. Now what? Talk to people here who might be listening and going, okay, if Danielle did it and she's servicing people with a heart in this, it can be an intense industry.
Yeah.
New agents watching, what did you do to get started? Like, what was the next step?
I don't want to sound like cliche because, I'm a believer, but I prayed. I honestly, before I did everything, I prayed. I was like, God, you led me out. You've brought me here. I need you to show up because I don't even know what I'm doing. I'm out here just winging it. And I said to him, listen, I need to replace my income. So I'm leaving a 6-figure income and I need to replace that to be able to be, I'm a single mom. So I need to be able to provide for my son. And I just believed that he was going to do that for me. And so I door knocked. I did every open house that I could do. I think in my first month, in my first 30 days, I had a listing. And that listing also turned into a buy. And then, so I was doing open houses. I was getting leads. I'm starting to figure out, okay, just like talk to as many people as possible. And I think in my first year, I might have done about 12 transactions. And doing that got me above where I needed to be, like right where I needed to be to replace my income. And I just felt like I wasn't alone. I was hustling, but I felt like I wasn't alone and I was enjoying the learning process. But I did all the grapply things. I did it. I figured it out. I asked for open houses from other agents. I I told everybody that I knew that I was a realtor now. I even hit up people from like that I went to university with in college. Like it was just everything. It was anything and everything. There was no one way for me. It was, God, I just need to figure this out. And I did.
Yeah, that's amazing. And he showed up.
He did.
You know,
He did.
I love that. So what are the biggest real estate lessons that you've learned on this way about people? So people you're transacting with, people in this industry, anything that you can share that you'd say is the biggest lesson?
People want to be heard. People want to be heard. People don't want to be sold. I feel like for me, real estate is an opportunity for me to meet more than just the need of shelter. It's an opportunity for me to sit down with people, talk to them about where they're at. A lot of times I feel like I'm a counselor, I'm a psychologist, I'm a realtor, I'm a friend. You know, I'm a personal trainer in some aspects, right, of the whole process. And I laugh to myself because, you know, I have a degree in Christian counseling, and I definitely use that a lot as a realtor. But people want to be heard. People want to feel seen, and they want to know that you actually care about them. When they know that, it makes it easier for them to trust you and for them to take heed to the things that you're saying to them in terms of the process of real estate. Sometimes what you're saying is not necessarily favorable or it's not easy to digest, but they know that you want what's best for them and they say, okay, most of the time.
Most of the time. I think too, in what you're saying, reversing it from the perspective of the client you're sitting with or going through this process with, in real estate, it is so important to be asking the right questions and not talk at people, but dig in and actually show that you care by finding out what their needs are. So it sounds like you're
I feel like that's
you're
my
degreed
sweet
in
spot.
that.
I feel like that it's what I want to do. And sometimes, you know, people may say, like, I have people around me that say, like, you get like way into the people that you're working with's lives, and they don't know things about their client to the same degree. And I'm like, because it's not just a transaction for me. Like a lot of my clients we're still in connection, right? You don't become friends with everybody, but everyone knows that you're there for them. And they know I'm there for them outside of real estate too. If any of my clients ever need a prayer, if they're going through, like I have a client that's moving to Spain. She sold her house last year, and whenever she gets an update from, you know, the embassy, like she sends me, oh, it's happening, things are happening, because she knows I care about her. And she will never buy a house or sell a house with me probably again, but that's not the end of the road for us. Like I don't sell real estate in Spain, but you know, I still want to know that she's doing all right. Yeah, no,
that's important. It means you really do care. And if it goes deep with people and they appreciate that, then that's great. It does show that you care. Looking back, you're obviously running a really high integrity business here. And I want to, I guess, get a viewpoint or idea of what integrity means to you.
Integrity to me means that we're doing the right thing even when other people are not looking, and when it's not necessarily popular opinion, or you're aware of shortcuts that can be taken, but you still choose to do it the right way. I find that when you don't, it comes back to bite you anyways. And you may not see that in a tangible sense, but even when you are doing things that lack integrity with your client and it's in their favor, it still causes them to question who you are and who you'll be if they were to refer you to someone else. So when you maintain your integrity, even in those rough times, that when they refer you, they know, you know what, she's going to do things the right way. She's going to do it on the up and up. And if it's not meant to be, then it won't be.
Yeah. And it's important too, to build trust through doing things that way.
Yeah.
Truth always comes out.
It does.
Has a way.
It does.
Looking back at your career so far, what are you most proud of?
What am I most proud of? I don't know if it's that I'm most proud of this, but I loved my first year. I loved that I set out to be Rookie of the Year, and I was. And it was, for me, that was just God saying, I got you, girl. It just helped me to solidify that, yeah, you're in the right place. This is where he's asked you to be, and just continue to do your thing. If I could say that I'm most proud of something, I think it would be maybe the example that I've set for my son. Like, he is seeing the ups, the downs, the ebbs and the flows of being in this real estate business. I mean, he benefits from it the most, really. But I've been able to do things for him and with him that, other than being in this industry, I wouldn't have been able to do. So using real estate as a vehicle to be a great mom and to be a good steward of the opportunities that God has given me, that I think that's what I'm most proud of. Yeah.
I love that. And I have 3 boys, and yours is older. And I loved just getting to know you at the beginning of when I got involved in this office, all the stuff you're doing with him and for him to support him. I have a curiosity question. So someone that I really admire, wise counsel, was saying, it's not necessarily wise to have conversations about business or financial decisions or things that might stress a teenager or preteen out. I'm curious on your thoughts on this, because I'm like, what would Jesus do?
Yeah.
I kind of looked at that and I was like, I don't know. I felt a little bit like it kind of is important as they're maturing to be men, to understand the importance of earning money, going to God with all of the decisions that you're making, and have the reality and sense of, I have to know how to provide at some point in my life and what hard work looks like and all of the decision making. And then seeing a strong mother lean into God to go, okay, Lord, please be with me on this journey. I know you're with me. And then having those open conversations. How did you do that with your son? How did you balance that? And what's your opinion?
So I believe in having those conversations with him because, I want him to live in a reality where as much as, we have means to do some things, there can be times where those means are diminished. Like, the reality is, you don't work, you don't eat. And when the market is fluctuating, you never know where we're going to end up, right? So we have these conversations. If he would start asking for too many things, it's like, okay, slow down, slow your roll. Like, do you need this? Because if you don't need this, maybe we should rethink. Like, what is your motivation for something? Because here's the cost of it.
Yeah.
Oh, but the money is there. Okay, the money is there now, but we have to be wise about it so that it's still there tomorrow. And just trying to teach him the value of something without him experiencing lack, right? Because sometimes people will learn the value or learn how it feels to not have it, but when you have something, you still have to understand that
what it took
exactly to get it, right? And he has a mindset, and I love him for it, where it'd be like, Mom, can we do this? And then he'd be like, all you got to do is sell one house. And I'm like, I love your faith. I love that you think that it's just that easy. But keep that there, but understand what's behind the scenes. And so I openly talk about money with him. Like, last night we were having a conversation. I said, you know what? You need to get a credit card. And I was explaining to him why, and he was talking about wanting to buy a car and all these things. And I was just explaining to him how to go about doing this, how we're going to navigate that journey. They need to know because they're going to live that life, right?
Yeah.
But in my openness and our conversations about, you know, where we're at financially from month to month or quarter to quarter, whatever it is, it's not telling him to ever be a burden or for him to say, oh yeah, we have a lot or we have a little. It's just, I want you to be aware.
Yeah.
Nothing about what it takes to run the house, run your life is your responsibility. It's never like saying, oh, you need to, it's, I got this, but here's what
the
we're
understanding
working
of it.
with, right? So just him knowing, and I heard him talking about how much mortgages and bills and different things that I pay to run the house, and I was like, yes, like
Yes,
he gets it.
Yes.
He gets it. Like, because he's talking about buying a car and what the car payment would look like, and you know, just that awareness. And
It's
I was
important.
like, God, I thank you.
Yes.
I thank you. He's not going into this blind.
Yes. And this is what I've been doing. And then I was told, well, that's not necessarily at the maturity level that he said. I'm like, no. This is the kid that took his blue plastic piggy bank and cracked it open. It has an investing slot, a saving slot, a giving slot, and a spending slot. And every time that kid earns $1 or whatever, he divvies it up.
Yep.
And then he gives to the local, he loves the TLC center where they help pregnant moms who have nowhere to go.
Yeah.
And so he gives his giving pool to that. And like, it's so cute.
He's
And
ready to have a conversation
he's
at some
excited about
extent.
it. Exactly.
Exactly.
So I think not keeping a sheltered perspective on kids is a good thing, but I wanted to just check because I've been feeling that nudge. Okay, now I have 2 other boys. I have to start teaching them, but is a 9-year-old too young to teach? Okay, this is the way you should do with your money when you get $5 or $100 from your grandma for Christmas or whatever. And it's been such a blessing of conversation to have over the years with my son, Jack, who I've done this now since he was probably 6. I'm like, gosh, he's 13 and he feels like he's a 40-year-old man having these conversations because he's wise in his age. So
and don't feel like he's too young. I remember my son was 11 years old. We were driving in a car and he just turns to me. He's in the passenger seat and he turns to me and he says, Mom, what do I need to do to be able to buy a house when I get married so that I don't have to live with you? And I was like, yes. Think about that 11-year-old boy. Go ahead. So he asked the question. So he was ready to hear the answer. And it was like, okay, well, you're going to need to save. You're going to need to do this, and all
and
the
that's
things,
amazing.
right?
And he'll do it. Now he has
So we had the
to
conversation. So you know what to do. But I laugh because that's what he was thinking about at 11, that when he gets married, he doesn't want to have to live with me.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't want you to live with me either.
Yeah.
So
I joke around with Jack. I'm like, when you make the MLB and you've got your place at the beach, you'll build me a granny pad.
There you go.
And I'll come and help with the kids. So no, that's good. Reassurance for my soul that I'm on the right path and educating my oldest son. I have someone to follow in your success with your strong boy.
Thank you.
Buying and selling a home is obviously it can be emotional for families.
Yeah.
How do you support people through those moments?
So, you know, I laugh and joke around a little bit about this with some of my girlfriends because some of them are also my clients that they've used me to do their real estate stuff. And they're like, Danielle, you know all those behind the scenes videos that we see on Instagram about what happens in the sale process of a house. And they're like, you should do that. You should do that kind of stuff too, but show that what happens really behind the scenes for you.
You should.
And I was like, it's kind of weird because mine doesn't start with, oh, we got to paint your house. We got to do all the things and get your house staged and ready. It starts in the corner of my room. Once I have picked up a client, their name is put on a card, and that card goes onto my prayer board. And I pray for them. That's the beginning of my behind the scenes process. Everybody that I work with, regardless if they are a believer or not a believer, their name goes on the board until the end of the transaction. And every day when I go down to pray, when I lay down in my little corner, I take the stack of names and I pray about them. I pray about their process. I pray about them being able to mitigate the stress of moving, that they would be able to understand the questions that they have for me and clearly articulate themselves so that we can make sure that we're always on the same page. It's a process, and I believe that there's so many things that are working behind the scenes, everything has a spiritual connotation to it for me. So that is how I start with my clients, and everybody gets that same treatment. And I believe it really, really helps me in my business, and it helps them. And it's funny because even when I'm working with people, and I never push my Christianity, my beliefs on them. That's not, I am who I am, and they accept me for that. But, when we're in the midst of offers or where we've put in an offer, or the conversations come and people would say, oh, fingers crossed. Mm-hmm. By the time I'm done with most people in their transaction and their process, they're no longer sending me fingers crossed. They're sending me prayer hands. And it's just those little things that it's just like, for me, I'm like, they get me. I get them. We're working together to get to the end result. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I love that process. That's so special and purposeful, because there's lots of people, and power of prayer is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
I've experienced it. And I love that you offer that level of respect where you have your belief. I think John Maxwell talks about this all the time, when people feel sort of like you're going to force them into believing what you believe. That's not the case. It's a powerful thing to genuinely care, respect, and love one another's beliefs, whatever that may be for them. And so I love that you do that and secretly pray, or maybe openly pray for them.
I don't tell them all that I pray for them, but that's just what I do.
It.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I'm sure they feel that warmth. What excites you most about helping someone buy their first home?
Oh man. For me, buying your first home, and going back to what I was talking about, where I moved a lot as a youngster, and I remember what it was for my mom to be able to buy her first home. And then I remember the excitement that she felt, but not only that, I remember what it meant for us as her kids, that wow, this is home now. This is home. I was never one to decorate spaces, do any of that stuff, or feel like I'm going to build this into what I want it to be until that happened. Because I didn't know when the next move was coming. Mm-hmm. And when I realized that this is settled, that's when paint started going on the walls, and I was able to express myself. Mm-hmm. And so when I see people buying their first home, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is an opportunity for them to settle. Mm-hmm. This is an opportunity for them to have a foundation that is set, so that when it's time for them to grow, that they can do that with a level of security. And if they have a family, if it's a young family, or if it's just, a husband and wife, whatever the case may be, being in a place where you feel free to be yourself, and that that's your safe space, it makes a very big difference in how you go about every other thing in your life. So knowing that I have the opportunity to help somebody to get to that place, I get excited. On top of that, my conversations with first-time home buyers never end at, good job, you bought your first home. Hooray. Mm-hmm. It's, you've bought your first home, enjoy it for a little bit, and then I want you to think about what comes next. Because with ownership comes the opportunity for legacy. Mm-hmm. And so let's talk about what you can do going down the road. What are your next steps? It's not just a one and done, see you later. It's, wow, now I have an opportunity for them to build wealth. Mm-hmm. And that for me that's it. Like it's getting them in and then teaching them how to build legacy.
Yeah. And that's wonderful. And there's so much opportunity right now, right now in the market, which is very exciting that you've already planted that seed and encourage them that they can do more than just owning that home.
Yeah.
I love that. So let's step back to, your faith in business. I know it's been sprinkled throughout the conversation. Mm-hmm. You obviously now have a deep relationship. You believe, you pray, that's like the pinnacle of your value system.
Yeah.
And I want to hear if you have any stories where you truly felt that God was guiding the decisions for people in this process of purchasing a home. And I'd love to hear as well, like any sort of awesome miracle stories. I mean, you share them with me in the hallway sometimes. And I'm like, yeah, Lord, this is good.
Yeah.
So whatever you're willing to share, maybe share a story of you seeing God show up for a family in a big way. And then let's touch on some cool miracles you've experienced.
Okay. So I have a friend, they had started their family. They were cohabitating with another family member, and they decided, okay, it's time for them to branch out. We brought them through the process of pre-approval and all the things, right? Mm-hmm. And so we have a budget, and the budget kind of was forcing them to go a little bit more east in order to get something that checked off all the boxes for them. And that part, it was like, okay, we got to get you in, but it has to make sense. You guys are deeply rooted in ministry and you have young kids. And so the back and forth, if you're too far, it doesn't make sense for you. And I remember praying and asking God, like, God, you can do all the things. So I need you to show me what house this client needs. And I remember going through the MLS and I saw this house and I was like, checks off all the boxes except for one in terms of it wasn't an updated home, right? And I went and I took a tour. I did a quick walkthrough of the house. And when I went there, there was this surety. Like I knew that, oh my gosh, this is the house for them. And I was looking beyond the aesthetic and the price, everything else was perfect. It was lower than their budget. They would be able to acquire this house. And so when I sent it to them, they didn't say anything about it. And then they sent me other houses that they wanted to see. And I said, okay, we'll go and see those. And so we went and saw them. And it just wasn't, and I sent it again. It just wasn't sitting with me. And I sent it again. And I didn't want to be forceful with it. I was just like, let's go and take a look.
Yeah.
And so the husband later on said to me, I was like, why does Dee keep sending me this? Like, why is she sending this to me? Like, I ignored it on purpose and now she wants us to go and see it. And if they said, no, we're not going to see it, then I would have to say, but I just knew that they weren't going to say no. I knew they weren't going to. And when we went to see the house and the family came and they walked through the house, he said that there was something that just flooded him. And we had gone to see other houses before, something that flooded him and made him say, oh my gosh, like, this is the house. Mm-hmm. Even though there was work to be done, even though, it wasn't aesthetically pleasing to their liking. And then they walk through the house and they're like, this is it. And when we put in an offer for the and somebody else actually came, they brought a family member to come and they saw it and they were like, oh, no, this is not the house.
Way.
And so, but they already felt that knowing within them. And so when we put in the offer, my job is to try to get them the best price. Mm-hmm. So we put in something lower than what it was asking and we got it. And I was like, God, you are all over this. Mm-hmm. And when they closed on the house, they did their renovations and the client is a chef. And their kitchen is absolutely beautiful. It's become a centerpiece in their home. So many people come and they sit at that island and they enjoy conversations about the Lord. They enjoy just the ministry that this family has to give. And I think about how, you know, if they had turned away from the house and then just even with their children and how their family has grown, they have grown into this house, and it's just a beautiful, beautiful thing. He runs his business and is set up in the basement. He entertains in the upstairs, and it's a place of prayer. It's a place of fellowship, and it's a place where you can fill your belly and have a good time, right? So I look at that and I look at the end result and I'm like, God, I thank you for showing me, despite what my eyes were seeing, I heard you.
Yeah.
I heard you. And that faith and believing that you're guiding me through the process as well as the people that I'm working with, it was just reassured in that moment. So yeah.
I love that. And I love that you had that feeling. It's like a warmth. It's like, oh yeah, this is it. You just know. It's a knowing. So thank you. I'm so happy to hear that they got it. They got it for a good price.
Yes, they
made
did.
It sparkle inside the way they wanted it. And now they're using it for, I guess, a ministry of love and sharing and good food and all the good things.
Yeah.
That's great. Is there another story that's sort of surfacing or popping into your mind, doesn't have to do with real estate, whether it was you going through a difficult time and God showing up, or something that might have happened and it was just like, holy smokes, this is real?
Well, you know, I've been doing real estate for 7 years and it hasn't always been easy, right? There was a year in particular where business was tough. It was tough. And I, at certain times, question, I'm like, God, okay, is this where I'm supposed to be?
Yeah.
Because you already know what's happening. You know what I need to put out, but you also know what's coming in, right? And I was like, oh my God, am I going to have to walk away from the business? Am I going to have to get a job and do this part-time? And, you know, I remember my sister calling me like, Dan, like, are you going to be okay? Like, what's happening? Maybe you should work, like get a job and have something that comes in steady and do real estate on the side. And I prayed about it and I was like, God, what do I do? Because there are real needs here. And it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It wasn't like, yeah, go get a job. It was like, no, just stand still. Stand still. Keep doing what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. And it took months. Like there were days where I was like, I am not sure how this is going to pan out. And I remembered the night that I was folding the laundry. I remembered, you know, how he brought me through year one and to the specifications of what I'm asking for, he provided for me. And it was like, nah, you didn't bring me this far just to say, forget it.
Move on,
Yeah.
give up.
Just this is a time where I got to really buckle down and trust you, keep doing what I'm doing despite not seeing the fruit. And then a few months later, things just started to open up and business started to come and, you know, provision came and that, we're out of that came. But I really questioned, am I supposed to be here? But then I look at the impact that I've been able to have and I look at what it's allowed me to do up until that point. And there, again, like you said earlier, there was a knowing. There was a knowing. Despite everything saying go one way, I knew that I need to keep going the way that I was going. So yeah, there's times like you want to increase your faith, become a realtor. Like honestly, you want to learn how to trust, become a realtor because
oh my gosh,
it's not easy.
Tell me
it's
about
not
it.
an easy gig. People think that we just sell houses, put a sign on a lawn and we're good to go. It is like you have these battles within your own mind on a regular basis. Like, am I supposed to be here? Yes, you're supposed. I feel like back in the day, the cartoon, the Jetsons, there was like one thing on one side, one thing on the other side, and it's just talking, and they're like their arch nemesis. Like, but that happens in our minds often, and I can't speak for everybody. I can speak for myself. But it's not easy. Every day I have to remind myself, I'm supposed to be here. I'm supposed to be here. Go out and make a difference. Go out and make an impact. And when I see the fruit of that, it makes me feel like, yeah, okay.
Yeah, reaffirmed. And sometimes what's really neat when you are in that mental battle or in doubt or in scarcity or fear, be anxious about nothing.
Yeah.
And pray about
Pray
everything.
about it. Right.
And sometimes I'm like, hey, it's God just pulling me back in a little bit. I got a little bit like, oh yeah, I got this.
Hey, that's it.
When that happens, it's like, okay.
I'm doing this. I'm doing it. And God says, please don't leave me out.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm here.
Yeah.
And God will actually use other people. Have you had that where they reaffirm what He's told you in quiet?
Oh, yeah.
And then they're like, they say something and you're like, oh, the best.
Yeah. It's like, it makes you feel like, okay, God, I'm not going crazy.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
For
real.
sure. For sure.
We know what that's like. It's
For
pretty
sure.
awesome. It's the best. Let's talk about outside of work. Mm-hmm. I mean, what is it that you love? What keeps you grounded outside of real estate?
What keeps me grounded outside of real estate? So I'm all about community. And when I say community, I mean just the people around me. I grew up surrounded by people all the time. On the street that we lived on when my mom bought her house, my aunt lived 2 doors down. My grandparents lived across the street. My cousins lived just on the other street, but just around the corner. And we are very community based. So that type of everyday living spills out into every area of my life where I'm at. So when I'm at church, I'm always checking for the people. I always want to make sure that everybody's good. My house has an open door policy. Like I have a lockbox tucked away somewhere in my house. And when people are coming and I'm not home, it's like, okay, go to the lockbox. I'll be there shortly. It really is an open door policy. And I wouldn't change it for the world. I am somebody that, just helping people, finding ways to help people, finding ways to impact somebody's life on a personal level, wherever that is. If it's with my son's basketball peers, like I talk to a lot of these kids. He's like, how do you even strike up conversations with these people, Mom? And I'm like, I don't know, Cam. I just care about them. And they know I care about them. So I have kids that go to university in the States at D1 universities, and they're still messaging me, hey, Mom, how you doing? Like when they might DM from off of a story that I've put. But building those relationships, I have people, I love working with single moms. I love giving single moms support, just encouragement and having conversations. Sometimes I meet with certain people for coffee outside. What else? Like church is a big part of my life. I attend church regularly. I am the head of the evangelism department in my church. So I'm people facing, and it's, just wanting to make a difference. So between basketball, between church, between just family and within those communities.
You're a busy lady.
Yeah.
But
It's good.
You're
It's
thriving
good. It's a good busy.
I want to ask you about future impact in the next, say, 5 years. Like, do you have a bigger mission or a difference that you hope to make or a goal in mind that you'd like to share?
I have so many. I have too many. But right now, the one that I'm focused on is really digging into helping families that are in the Black and Caribbean community to see real estate as a tool for wealth building and for legacy. We're behind the 8 ball. And for many reasons, we're behind in terms of being able to leave generational wealth to our children. And we're catching up, but I don't know if we'll ever catch up per se, but our mindsets are shifting. Like I think about people, like, my mom came in the 70s to Canada, and you come, you work hard, you do all the things, and it's all about just working, and saving your money, throwing in the bank and saving your money. So there are a lot of hard workers in this community, and there's a lot of people that do own real estate, but they don't know what to do with it.
Yeah.
They don't know how to use it for their benefit and for the benefit of their children. Like teaching people, don't use your house as an ATM. Stop refinancing to do silly things. Start using the money in your home to purchase another home. So that when you do that, and in the next 15 years, you can pay off the house or pay off both of the houses if you have it. You know what I mean? Rather than continuing to refinance, and then you have nothing to leave to your children, right? So learning that, okay, I want your hard work to matter. I want your hard work to mean something. And that way you can help those who are coming up, because it's always like everybody has to kind of fend for themselves. And that was the mentality, but it's shifting now. I'm seeing more think about, okay, well, I missed the boat for my kids, but how now can I help my grandkids with generational wealth? So we're getting there. So impacting by educating, that's really what I am. I have a strong desire to do that in this season.
You and
life.
me both. So we're going to have to create something there and make sure that we educate the masses on this, because it's so important. And there's huge opportunity right now to educate people and actually make that happen in this market we have. It's perfect.
Yeah.
Is there anything else that I haven't asked you or talked about that you want to just share in this last little bit?
Ooh. Anything else that I want to share? I just want to encourage anybody that's listening. Like, don't feel, if you feel stuck, there's a reason that you feel stuck. And I say that with the intent on your spirit isn't settled because there's something more. There's more for you that you're not opening your eyes to see. And so take an internal look at where you're at and say, okay, how can I create more impact if this is what your desire is? And I feel like that is innately everyone's desire, to leave a little impact somewhere. And figure out what you're good at, figure out what you're drawn to, and go for it. Go for it. If it's risky, calculate your risk, but it doesn't have to be, you don't have to be all in, but just start. Just one foot in front of the other. There's so much more to life than going to work, getting a paycheck, coming home, paying the bills. There is a life that we're not living to its full degree, and myself included.
Yeah.
So I am really trying to find the things that, I'm holding back on and saying, okay, like, how do I move towards that?
Yeah.
And so I'm just encouraging everyone to get on that bus. Like, there's more in us. There's more in us. Discover your more. And when you discover that more and you start working towards it, that feeling of being stuck, it'll start to shake.
Yeah.
And you'll start to see like, wow, there is a new level of fulfillment that I'm experiencing in my life. And it feels absolutely amazing.
Oh, I love that you just shared that. It's perfect for the time that I think a lot of people are in, that transition.
Yeah.
So take massive action and have faith in the journey, and you'll get guided by the light.
Yay, there you go.
There you go.
Lighthouse.
So maybe just share again where people can find you if they want to follow you on social media, look for your website. You can share with them now.
All right. So my Instagram and Facebook is My Lighthouse Homes. And, you can message me, DM me, whatever. You can email me at mylighthousehomes@gmail.com. I would love to connect, love to chat, and just, be of service.
Thank you for your time today. It's always such a blessing to get to hear your wisdom. And
thank you.
I loved hearing more details of your story.
Thank you so
Danielle.
much, Jamie Lee.